official video here at our new place. This video was actually the request of a subscriber. When I posted about it on Instagram, a lot of people thought that it'd be a fun idea. So usually on this channel, I'm showing you how to take care of your car, how to clean it properly, how to do some basic maintenance on it, how to do some mods. In this video, I'm actually going to show you all the imperfections with the car, everything that's wrong with it. Sometimes we see things on YouTube or on Instagram and everything just looks perfect. You know, we're selecting the right angle of the car, doing some editing with Lightroom, but you don't always see the imperfections, so that's what I want to show in this video. So starting with the exterior, we have this dent right here on the rear passenger side door. I believe that happened at the apartment, and that's one of those things, like, people have been asking me when I'm going to buy a new car or if I'm ever going to buy an M3 or something like that, and it just wouldn't have made sense at the apartment. It was basically parking in a big parking lot with a bunch of other people who don't really care about their car. So unfortunately, stuff like that is going to happen, but it is what it is. So on one of the front wheels, there's a really small nick right there in the powder coat, and if you remember the video that I made last year where I couldn't get one of my wheel locks off and we had to basically pound a socket onto it with a sledgehammer, one of the attempts, unfortunately, the sledgehammer missed and hit the wheel just a little bit right there. So it is kind of disappointing that happened, and that's why I keep this wheel. I try to keep it on this side of the car, that way I don't notice it as much, but yeah, that did happen with the wheel, unfortunately. So the thing that I'm probably the most upset about on the whole car is these small paint chips here in the bumper. Now, if you've been following me for a while, I just got this bumper about a year ago, had it professionally painted, and it's already got quite a few of these chips on the front. I do take this car on a lot of road trips, so it's on the highway for, you know, hundreds of miles. Of course, stuff like this is going to happen, but I think what happens is when you have it painted at a shop, maybe the paint isn't quite as durable as like the factory paint, but that is something that really drives me crazy. I put a little bit of clear coat over it for right now, just so that hole in the paint doesn't spread, but I will have to address this at some point. Alright, so this next one actually wasn't my fault. It was probably the previous owner, but basically the plastic points under here where you put the jack stands are all chewed up. BMW, in their divine wisdom, decided that the best material to hold up a 3,400 pound car was plastic. And so if you don't use the right jack, some jack stands, they have like a rubber top on them. That's what you're supposed to use. Or they even have ones that have a groove that fits exactly into this piece of plastic. But if you just use like a standard jack stand from the store and you don't put that piece on top, this does get chewed up really bad. Now, the only good thing about this, these are pretty cheap and they're pretty easy to replace, so I'll probably do that at some point. Alright, so like I was saying earlier about taking Instagram pictures from just the right angle and using software to edit the pictures, a lot of people ask me how I keep the headlights so clear. They're actually pretty badly faded, especially on the top. It's not always easy to see in a photo, but in person they do look pretty bad. I'm probably going to try to clean them up, like polish them out. Replacing these headlights, unfortunately, with the bi-xenon ones, they're extremely expensive. Probably be about $1,400 for the pair, and I would prefer to get brand new ones. The problem with buying used, of course, is that it's just a matter of time until they look like that again. So ideally, if I had the money to spend on it, I would like to just get brand new ones, put some kind of protection on them and keep them looking good. But for now, I'm going to try to polish these out. That'll probably be a future video here pretty soon. Alright, so the side folding mirrors, E90s have this really common issue where they fold in the right way, but then when you go to fold them out, it'll go like way beyond the point where it's supposed to stop. It's really annoying, and basically the whole time that I've owned this car, it's had that problem. But about a month ago, it actually resolved itself, so I kind of dodged that bullet, I guess. These mirrors are like $800 to buy brand new if you want like a genuine BMW one, so luckily it's working now. I don't have to worry about that. The side trim on the rear driver's side door, this is another one of those things that just, the problem seems so simple, but the solution is very expensive or very complicated. Basically, I took this off a long time ago because I was trying to plasti dip it, and I thought that it would be a lot easier to do off the car. And then I realized that when you take these out, you kind of bend them in the process, and then they never quite go back in the right way. You can see it's kind of sticking up a little bit in the back and the front. You can't really tell that much now that I've vinyl wrapped it. It kind of blends in, but from inside the car, if I'm looking through that mirror, I can see that it's not quite even, so it just drives me crazy. And these, like this piece of chrome trim, it's very difficult to find online. and to buy like a brand new one again from like BMW's catalog, this one strip is like $300. So you'd think, oh, that's easy, you just go to a junkyard, find an E90 and take the trim off. But the problem is when you take the trim off that car, you're gonna bend that. So it's one of those things that I just kind of have to deal with. I don't feel like paying $300 for one piece of trim that I would just paint black anyway, or vinyl wrap black rather. So yeah, that just really annoys me, especially because I can see it when I'm driving. So speaking of vinyl wrap, there are some places on here where the wrap is peeling up a little bit. When I made that video, I guess just over a year ago, showing you how to vinyl wrap window trim, that was really my first time ever working with vinyl wrap, so there are some places where maybe I didn't overlap it quite enough. And then with the temperature change, like the heating and cooling, it kind of shrunk up a little bit where you can see the chrome in some areas. So when I had more time, I would like to peel this off and redo it with what I know now. But that is something, again, that, you know, I see it as I'm getting in my car. There's some places where I can see the chrome showing through. You don't really see it in photos, but it does bother me a little bit. So another issue that came up kind of recently here, maybe in the last 2 months, is the driver's side door lock on the driver's door. It seems like it opens in slow motion. Like you see how it kind of took a second to come up. So I don't know if that's the actuator failing, or maybe there's just a part in there that needs some grease. But I don't know, maybe in the future I'll do a video where I take the door apart and figure out what's going on in there. I'd rather replace it before it fails, like in the lock position, because I feel like that would make it hard to get the door open. But we'll see what happens with that. So now for the inside of the car, I really love that the car came with aluminum trim. That's probably one of my favorite trim options, but unfortunately this is a softer metal, so sometimes when you take your seatbelt off, it'll nick this corner, so you see all these little pock marks. That drives me crazy. And also, as you can see, I'm missing the fastener that goes right here, so this end piece is a little bit loose. This also drives me insane, but fortunately I can pick one of these up at AutoZone or O'Reilly's. This is not that big of a deal to fix. The glove box has this issue where it doesn't quite open, and I think it's just from being taken apart and put back together so many times. The most recent time was the Apple TV install, and I think that when I was putting the glove box back together, I didn't line one of the hinges up quite right. So you can pull the handle, but it doesn't open. You have to like really pull down on it and then push it open like that. So again, that's one of those things that it's just a matter of me taking the time to take that apart and put it back together the right way. I don't really use my glove box anyway, that's why I haven't really worried about it, but one day I'm probably just gonna spend a whole day going through all the stuff on this list and try to fix everything that I can. The rubber on the door handles is peeling off, and this is an issue with every E90 ever built. Basically all the plastic on the interior has this rubberized coating, and in the high contact surfaces, especially something like a door handle that you're touching all the time, the rubber will peel off and it looks really bad. Especially, you know, BMW is supposed to be like this fancy brand, this fancy car, and you have stuff like this that just looks horrible. So you can pretty easily buy replacements for this. It's not that big of a deal to install, but personally it doesn't bother me that much to where I'm worried about it. So I'm probably just gonna leave this alone. So I'm not sure how this is gonna show on camera, but the inside of the center console is kind of sunk in. And this is actually a pretty common issue. Basically what happens is when you have things plugged in that are too tall, like right here I have a dual outlet, and I've got my phone cord, and I believe this one is my dash cam. And it's like too tall for the lid, so when you close the lid, it pushes down on the inside. You can see inside the cup holder, it's not quite flush. I think that's a pretty simple fix, but I would have to find a shorter solution for my cables. That way they're not sticking up so high, that way it doesn't push back in again. But I think this is pretty common. People talk about this a lot in the forums and on Facebook groups with the sunken cup holders. And then the last thing on here that kind of drives me crazy is the fact that the carpet, the trunk liner, doesn't quite fit anymore, just from, again, being taken in and out so many times for installing the suspension, installing the taillights. Anytime that you move this out of the way, it kind of bends a little bit, so unfortunately it's not quite flush, you know, no matter what I do, try to tuck it in or whatever. But I don't really show people the inside of my trunk. I never take pictures in here. It's just one of those things that if I'm putting groceries in there, I notice it, and makes me a little bit upset. So there you go. In case you were wondering, that's all the stuff that's wrong with the car cosmetically. I challenge BMW Fanatic and Chip to Perspective to make a similar video about your cars. I think that we would like to see that, especially you, Brandon. And yeah, I think that it's important to show this stuff because what you see on Instagram and on YouTube, it's not always perfect. It's a 13-year-old car that gets driven basically every day, so of course it's gonna have some imperfections here and there. So I just wanted to show you guys that, and I want to take you upstairs and show you the new studio. So welcome to Studio 2.0, well I guess maybe 3.0 if you want to count my bedroom at my parents' house a few years ago, but this is it. I still have some, like, I'm gonna rearrange some things. I'm gonna mess around with how I set up the camera, the light, the microphone. This will all probably change a little bit, but this is pretty much it. I'm gonna do like a full video showing you guys the whole house at some point. We basically, before we even moved in, we painted almost every wall in this house. We changed almost all the light fixtures, some of the plumbing fixtures like faucets, so I'll do a full reveal when that's all done. But really I'm just excited to get all this stuff finished with so I can get laser focused on YouTube like I was before. Just the last month or so has been really chaotic with finding a house and moving, but yeah, this is the studio so far. The ceiling is black. I'll show you a couple different angles of the room, but it's so nice to be able to just leave this stuff set up now, so if I ever feel like making a video, all I have to do is turn on this light, hit record on the camera, and we're ready to go. I just got this in the mail like literally 5 minutes ago. The guy was here. EOS R, haven't even taken it out of the box yet, but this will be the new YouTube camera from here out. So yeah, a lot of exciting things happening. Thank you guys for bearing with me the last month. I know that I haven't been uploading as much as I would like to, but more videos are on the way. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.